That's something that I haven't even really thought about that much. I'm kind of in my own little world, right? Just hanging out, working out, producing a podcast. But when I start thinking about the fucking chaos that we're going to have during this election cycle, it's exciting to me because people just lose their goddamn minds over it. And I'm like, I mean, it doesn't matter really who's in office. Like, how much does your life really change, right? And none of my political views, like I'm pretty much politically homeless outside of like the Libertarian Party, but they're crazy as well. But I like I'm a big fan of like small government. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure that Biden would run again. Like, what kind of, you're much closer to these things than I am, so I'm kind of curious. Like, what do you have any? You've got your finger kind of on the pulse. Is that something that he's talking about or considering? Like, what kinds of things are you hearing?
I've heard sort of mixed reports on how clear he's been about with his inner circle about that. So, I mean, it's not like I have any particular level of insight, but from the stories that I've read, it sounds like he's basically been telling advisors that he's good to go. But even if he didn't, if he decided that he wants to be a one-term president, and again, at his age, it would be pretty normal for some kind of health, health event or health evaluation to change his decision. He could fully be prepared for it right now, but decide, a year from today, I just don't feel like I have another 4 years in me. But with that being said, as the president, he is the leader of not only the country, but the Democratic Party. And so in all likelihood, much like I'm saying that for Trump, his endorsement would go a really long way. It would be really, really hard for the RNC to nominate someone who is not Trump endorsed. In the same way, I think it would be pretty challenging for an insurgent Democratic candidate to primary Joe Biden or to be victorious over a Joe Biden endorsed person, right? So you could have somebody like Bernie run in a primary against, say, Kamala Harris, who is endorsed by Biden in this fictional scenario or this projective scenario. And I think it would be an enormous uphill battle for whoever is running to justify that run, especially because much of the rhetoric would be focused around, you're just going to help Trump win. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that whether it ends up being Trump Biden or Trump versus Harris or Biden versus DeSantis or something, ideologically that's more or less what we're probably looking at, a Trump ideological person versus a centrist presenting kind of like Democrat.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't been alive that long, right? I'm 30 years old, and I have never seen the level of attachment to a person outside of the
Right.
Trumpers. Like, it is fucking wild. It's just it's complete chaos. Like it's almost a cult, in my opinion, right? It is like there's this fever. This like he's kind of like the king of the assholes, and love him or hate him, like he's a very polarizing character. I liked when he was president. I was never not entertained. I laughed all the time, but the division that he seems to cause in the country, I'm not super pumped about him necessarily running once again. But I mean, I'm sure that we're going to get it, and it is going to be one of those crazy things, and you'll have a lot of things to cover. Of that, I am pretty positive.
I will just something to add on that. I think that when I have covered Trump supporters, Trump rallies, etc., as opposed to most other types of single issue events that I cover, where the divergence is in beliefs about sort of other stuff, and then they kind of all unify around one issue.
Yeah.
And with a lot of other candidates, the candidate is sort of trying to represent the feelings of people that are already out there, or trying to represent a new way, right? So Bernie Sanders has, these are uncharted waters for, the politics that he's trying to present, but he wants to convince people of them. But fundamentally, what he's trying to convince them of is his sort of philosophy of being a social democrat. But with Trump, it's not like that, or like, say, Ron Paul trying to turn people on to libertarianism. Trump is turning people on to Trump.
Yes.
So he is a lot of things to a lot of people. And so I meet people who identify with extremely divergent actual points of view. on sort of why they support him. And yet they kind of, they form around his exact personality. Like he is the single issue himself.
I have never seen. It's brilliant. It's like the media turned him into a rock star by just trying to trash him. And you can't, he's got that New Yorker, like, I don't give a fuck attitude. And he just wouldn't be stopped. I've never seen anything like it. It's been fascinating to watch. You did mention someone, I mean, you don't mention Ron Paul on this podcast and not get a shout out.
Just casual Ron Paul drama. Right.
I fucking love that man so much. That's the only time in my life, I was in college, the only time in my life I was like, that's not true, but one of the very few times I've been so balls deep into politics. And I was devastated when he lost, I think it's the Iowa caucus. He had some hope going into that. No one would ever ask him questions when they were doing the debates, because he would destroy everyone. I was really hopeful that he would become a president. John, no, not going to let you talk. And I'm just kidding. Come on, Brett. What's up, John?
I was just going to say, I worked for Ron Paul's campaign in 2008. So there you go.
Really?
Yeah. That was the first election that I was eligible to vote. And I was just like, okay, that guy. And so I ended up signing up, and I was a delegate to the Indiana Republican convention for him. There was some obviously hinky stuff that went on that, I'd be happy to talk about off camera.
We weren't ready for the Ron Paul revolution, man. I was really hopeful. So